Josh Taylor is without a doubt one of the most talented boxers to come out of Scotland and the UK in the last 10 years, especially after becoming undisputed champion in just 18 fights at light welterweight, and is now widely considered pound for pound one of the best in the world right now. Having seen Josh Taylor fight myself a couple of times now, you can tell he's a special fighter, and that's why it gives me great pleasure today to share my thoughts on his action-packed boxing style. I'll be looking at his background, accomplishments, and what makes him so effective in the ring. Real quick, I just want to say a huge thank you to the sponsor of today's video, ExpressVPN. Now, if you're like me, being a huge boxing fan, it can be one of the hardest and frustrating things to watch boxing from different countries. Well, I think I've found the perfect solution for that, and that is through the sponsor of today's video, ExpressVPN. A VPN basically helps you connect your internet to a different country and also helps to keep your data and connection secure. A great example of me using ExpressVPN is that I can connect to a US based server and watch fights on things like ESPN+, which I can't get here in the UK. Or even better, instead of paying the pay-per-view price in the UK, I can connect to a server in another country and watch it that way at a much cheaper cost. This makes ExpressVPN my go-to way to watch boxing without having to find those dodgy streams going forward. If you use the link in the bio, you can get 3 extra months free, and there's also a 30-day money-back guarantee, so you can try it out first and see if it works for you. On that note, let's get right back into the video. So first up, here's a quick look at Josh Taylor's background. Josh Taylor is originally from Scotland and grew up in a small fishing town called Prestonpans, a town east of Scotland's capital, Edinburgh. Before Taylor started in boxing, he was in fact a Taekwondo champion from a young age before taking up boxing in his teenage years. Slowly but surely, Taylor became an extremely talented amateur as he progressed in the British boxing system. The Scotsman's talent has definitely been recognised, as he's competed in multiple Commonwealth Games and the 2012 London Olympics. After a very successful amateur career, Taylor turned professional, teaming up with Barry McGuigan's son, Shane McGuigan. The Scotsman progressed quickly in his professional career, winning the Commonwealth belt over Dave Ryan and a standout domestic display against O'Hare Davies. It was from here he got his chance in the World Boxing Super Series, where he really started to make a name for himself and the opportunity to win world titles. After a convincing opening win over Ryan Martin to fight the hard, aggressive Baranchik for his first world title victory, where he didn't disappoint his home fans. This led to the Scotsman facing the highly talented American Regis Prograis in the World Boxing Super Series final. After an enthralling contest which saw arguably the two of the best in the division go toe-to-toe for 12 rounds, Taylor won by majority decision. After the tournament, the Scot made a bold move after winning the Muhammad Ali Trophy, deciding to drop trainer Shane McGuigan where he had so much success, and instead going with trainer Ben Davidson going forward. After a simple mandatory defence, Taylor then got his chance to become a 4-belt undisputed champion against the talented and aggressive Jose Ramirez, where he managed to knock him down twice in the fight to win the fight by unanimous decision. Taylor's career is still relatively young to date, and it's exciting to think what more he could achieve. Josh Taylor's Tornado boxing style. Josh Taylor's boxing style is so effective due to the intensity he applies on his opponent while applying pressure on both the outside and inside. Another bonus which helps the Scot is his southpaw stance, which he has truly mastered fighting against orthodox fighters, using a variety of powerful hooks and uppercuts to keep his opposition guessing. A lot of his success comes down to his tremendous positioning. I guess you could say he's always putting his opponent in the face of danger, not too far or too close. The only time I've seen him truly matched in my opinion was against fellow southpaw Regis Prograis in the World Boxing Super Series final. But even here, Taylor's amateur pedigree, fighting spirit and aggressiveness and size came through to win the bout in my opinion. The lead right hand. Now, like any of the greatest champions, a lot of their work comes off the lead hand. For Josh Taylor, this of course is no different. He has a very varied approach with it, along with the positioning of the lead hand. The Scot will tend to lower the lead hand when at mid-range, where we will see his best work with it. As most opponents have been orthodox, he will try to instead occupy their lead hand with his own. He does this while probing with the jab, with feints, or even waving his hand in front of them. This in turn stops opponents getting off their own jab and helps to set up his own combinations. You will also see him using double jabs, jabs to the body, and even leaping jabs. Interestingly, he will sometimes step in with the jab on the inside of his opponent's centre line on occasion, which is often discouraged in righty versus lefty encounters. However, if you do this and use a quick defensive action as soon as you commit, you will often pull it off until your opponent starts to figure out what you're doing. Taylor, to counter this offensive risk, will tend to move out to his right with footwork, duck incoming hooks and tie them up, or simply use it as a way to start his offensive of fighting on the inside. Setting up the left. Probably Taylor's most underrated area is that powerful left hand. As just discussed, Taylor will instead try to set up the punch with a probing right hand jab, which follows up with a straight left to the body or up top when he spots an opening. Like any great southpaw, he'll also try to get his right foot on the outside of his opponent while throwing the left straight or hook when he's looking to land the punch as the aggressor. Another thing I've noticed is he doesn't tend to throw too many traditional straight shots, but instead prefers looping or angled hooks and even uppercuts. This makes his left hand very unpredictable, as it can come from an angle you can't see it from or even expect. The Scotsman will also look to throw the left hand so he can get up in the inside, which I'll explain later on in this video. Counterpunching. Now, as I just touched on, you would think Taylor might be some sort of pressure fighter, but Taylor is in fact an excellent aggressive counterpuncher who likes standing mid to close range in front of his opponent. This is so it forces his opponent into an exchange that therefore gives him a counterpunch opportunity. One very simple counter you will often see Taylor use is just a simple slip to the left or the right before firing a counterpunch with either hand depending what way he slips the punch. Another great example of him doing this is just through great footwork, by taking a small half step back before countering back with his own. He did this to perfection in the fight against Ramirez. Inside fighting and bodywork. Josh Taylor's fighting spirit really starts to show when he is fighting on the inside, and every opponent he has come up against really seems to struggle in my opinion. Partly I think it's because it's clearly an area he works on, also it's just a lost art for many fighters in today's age. In terms of Taylor, he will mix it up on the inside by using short powerful hooks and uppercuts to keep his opponent cautious and also to force them to tighten their guard. This then leads to openings for the body shots. He will tend not to smother his opponent, as Taylor likes to give himself enough space to throw these power shots on the inside. The Scotsman's body attacks are also up there with the best, as he is relentless with targeting the body, especially on the inside. However, the punch I've noticed Taylor likes to set up is the right hook to the body, which he will target when he gets the opposition to tighten their guard on the inside. He also likes to throw sneaky left uppercut or angled hooks to the body while stepping in on the inside, which he does often. A prime example of Taylor's inside work was against former world champion Vasquez in 2017. On this night in Edinburgh, he continually mixed up his inside game, forcing the Mexican to be on the back foot and to try hold his ground. His relentless and changeable hooks and uppercuts resulted in a brilliant finish from the Tartan Tornado. Switching stances and creating angles. Now, all I have mentioned does make a big impact in how Taylor switches stances, and potentially this may also come from his Taekwondo background, which requires you to change stance more often than not due to kicking. Either way, these techniques definitely help Taylor to catch his opponents off guard to create more punching opportunities at different angles or to help create distance on the outside. One of his best switching stance displays has to be against O'Hara Davis, who you could see was really struggling in the fight to adapt and defend himself due to the Scot's intelligent switching back and forth from his natural southpaw stance to orthodox. I highly recommend you check out that fight. Footwork and defense. The other big part of Josh Taylor's success in the ring is in fact his tremendous footwork. If you watch any of his fights, you'll notice that he will always be moving, never staying in the same position for too long, especially when he is mid to long range from his opponent. Instead of moving back in straight lines to allow his opponent to close him down, Taylor is always circling and using lateral movement, which is a big part in terms of how he avoids much punishment when on the outside. However, as I've discussed in this video already, he likes to engage with his opponent from mid to short range. He therefore needs to use other defensive maneuvers to put him in the position to attack. This includes parrying with the opponent's jab, using a high guard to block and catch incoming shots and counter, feints to cause hesitation in the opponent committing, and just simple head movement like the slips I talked about before, and rolling shots from the waist. This is an area I feel obviously gets overlooked due to his action-packed offense, but he is in fact very good defensively. Nastiness in finishing. Now, one of my favourite parts about Josh Taylor, he does have a nastiness to him in terms of finishing off opponents, especially early on in his career, with 13 KOs in 18 fights. But as the opposition has stepped up and gone the distance, he's still been able to cause some sort of damage on these competitors by knocking them down at some point throughout the fight. The only fighter not to have hit the canvas at any point was Regis Prograis. It's clear the Scotsman has the power in both hands, but it'll be interesting to see if he continues to carry this throughout the rest of his career. Final thoughts. Josh Taylor, in my opinion, is one of the most exciting and best fighters to come out of Scotland since Ken Buchanan. With him still being fairly young in his pro career, I can only see him getting better over the next few years. It will be interesting to see how he adapts if he moves up to welterweight one day, and if the power will still be there. If you're looking for ways to fight on the inside, I highly recommend you watch Taylor's fights so you can learn to apply pressure correctly while also setting up your punches from different angles. Personally, I think he has one of the best action-packed styles in boxing today, and I'm not just saying that as a proud Scotsman. I really am looking forward to see how far he can go. And that wraps up this boxing breakdown, guys. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button. If you're new here, please subscribe. Make sure to let me know in the comments below what you think of Josh Taylor's style. Do you think he can continue to dominate? As always, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.